My final couple hours in Georgia. I don't know if Georgia's crying that I'm leaving, or these are tears of happiness saying, get the heck out of here. Nice place to camp last night. So there's a band of rain actually coming. Just think of my finger here. It's a band just like this, and it's coming this direction towards me. And when I start walking south towards Jasper, Florida, in theory, according to the satellite, I'll be walking out of it. Well, it's really coming down. Does the pavement look any different? The shoulder look any different? It should, because we're now in the Sunshine State, albeit liquid sunshine today. That's right, Florida. 6 down and number 7 to go. Kind of an interesting feeling, you know, all these states, all these months, and now I've got, can you see it here? Hold on. Here, you can look up my nose. All these states and me in Florida, just last state left. So, and the rain has kind of stopped a little bit, so thank you very much. And so here we go, Florida. Now I do have a confession to make. I've cheated a little bit here in Florida because
Georgia, yeah.
Al, you remember Al from North Carolina? Well, he's emailed me, and he said that, guess what? Said, hey, we're coming up Highway 129, we're going to see you. So he saw me, and perfect timing too, because of this rain. So he's actually taking me into Florida, and we're going to get something to eat.
We are.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
Yeah. Well, kind of surrealistic feeling. This is Jasper, Florida. And kind of a whirlwind back there on the highway. Let me explain again what happened. So I was coming through Naylor the other day, or maybe it was a little bit before that. Anyway, Al emailed me and said, hey, we're going to be coming up Highway 129. Maybe we'll see you. Because they're driving back from Florida to North Carolina. I said, great. So then later on he said, yeah, we're coming up on Saturday. And so I told him, well, I'm going to be in Statenville on Friday night. And then he said, okay, well, we're probably going to be coming up through Florida around 10 o'clock in the morning. So I was packing up my stuff there in Statenville, getting ready to head out on the road, and it was about 8:30, and all of a sudden, look, there's Al. They were ahead of schedule. So they picked me up there in Statenville and drove me to the state line so I could show you how I cheated by not walking across. Well, I did walk across the state line. I just didn't walk all the way to get to the state line. That was just 6 miles. So I got to ride 6 miles to the state line, and we came here into Jasper. That's kind of interesting, huh? Little alleyway. Came here into Jasper, got something to eat, and then they headed off. And now it's a little bit late to head out to White Springs. It's 20 miles down the road, and it's going to rain tonight. And I think I'm just going to hang out around Jasper here, and then try and stealth camp over there in the park in the covered picnic area, or in one of the baseball dugouts, and then head to White Springs tomorrow. It's going to be clear, no rain, and it'll be an 18-mile day from the park. So anyway, that's what happened today. I'm in Florida, the last state, 6 states down. That'd be Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. So 6 states down and the last one to go. And I'll be in Key West before you know it. Although, Florida's going to be kind of long, you know, going down Central Park there. All right, so let's just kind of hang around Jasper and see what we see. And I think there's a laundromat here. I'm going to try and dry my sleeping bag out. After 2 weeks of sleeping in it, and the moisture and the dew and the humidity, it needs a drying. Let's see if this is a laundromat. I wonder what this place is here. Well, it's that time of day where I need to go find a stealth camp place to stay. And I'm going to do this in the park tonight, underneath the picnic shelter. But there's a twist. I don't have to worry because I called the sheriff's department and said, hey man, come on. It's gonna rain, I don't have a place to go. So I talked to the deputy. I called the dispatch and they put me through to the deputy. He said, yeah, it's okay. It's okay, I'll tell the midnight shift that you're gonna be there. So thank you very much, Hamilton County Sheriff. Sheriff Department. And in celebration, I went to the supermarket to get myself some real food, you know. Apples, blueberries, blackberries, tomatoes, bananas, a couple of iced teas, a Subway sandwich, some stuff for tomorrow. I think I overbought. The pack weighs a ton and I only have a day's walk tomorrow down to White Springs. So I better eat up tonight, right? And in the morning. And I got one of these little fizzy waters. So let's go see what the Hamilton County Park looks like. From the overhead pictures, it looks like it's got a fairly sizable picnic shelter, so I probably won't have to worry about getting wet even if it blows a little bit. But I think it's going to be just a minimal wind. And then the other thing too is that there's a flash flood watch in effect, so I have a feeling it's going to be kind of heavy. Oh, look at this. I could have just walked right down here instead. Okay, where do I go? Pay attention. Well, take a look at this. A mighty fine size picnic shelter. I think I'll be protected no matter which way the wind may be coming from. And certainly it'll be a lot better than trying to stay dry under that dugout there. So thank you once again, Hamilton County Sheriff Department. This will be a nice little place to call home for tonight. And on to White Springs tomorrow, and Lake City the next day. Well, this was certainly a lifesaver last night. So thanks once again, Hamilton County. That rain really came down last night. And I'm getting a late start as usual, and I've got 18 miles to go, so I got to get a move on here. White Springs, Florida today, or somewhere thereabouts. It's all going to be highway walking, Highway 41, so it'll be pretty noisy. I'm presuming so anyway, because I doubt that the traffic on Highway 41 here in Florida is any less than when I was up on 41 and 441 up there in northern Georgia. Let's get a move on, get a move on. At least no more rain. But you know, the interesting thing though, it's really turned cold. It's well, cold. Yesterday I think was 77, or the day before was 77, and yesterday was 75. And during the night it only got down into the upper 60s. Now today it's only going to be, I think, 59, going down to 38. So that's a big change. But the air's drier, so that feels nice too. Move along, move along. Got some homework for you. See this sign right here? You need, if you want to have a little bit of fun, go to Google Maps and look on Street View. See if you can find this sign and what was on it or not on it when Google Street View came through. So this is on Highway 41, just southeast of Jasper. In fact, it's southeast of Central Avenue, I believe. Southeast of where the Hamilton County Park is. Try and find this on Google Street View. See if you can locate where it is. And let me know what was there when Street View took the picture, and put it down there in the comments. I'm sure I've mentioned this before about on this trip starting in Kentucky and continuing on through Tennessee and Georgia. North Carolina was too short of a time. That I've been finding all sorts of coins alongside the road. In fact, I think in Tennessee I collected over $2 worth of coins. I didn't find anything that I recall in Michigan and Ohio. But here's my first coin that I found here in Florida, just a couple miles outside of Jasper. And question for you: if you ever see coins on the pavement or the ground or wherever it is you see them, number one, do you pick them up? And then number two, do you ever do that heads up, tails up type of thing? You know, like you make a wish, and then when you pick up the coin, if it's heads up, supposedly your wish comes true, and if it's tails up, not necessarily. So yeah, my first coin in Florida, and it was heads up. So I guess that's an omen of good things to come, right? For the rest of the trip. Here's kind of a dichotomy. Reed Roofing. Guess this place needs a little roof work, huh? Well, I've always been told that Florida has no mountains and no snow. Now, how is it that we have mountains and snow here in Florida? Now, actually, this is these are big mounds of potash, phosphate. This is what goes into a lot of fertilizer, and so this land is owned by a company called Nutrien, and they, I guess they're reclaiming a lot of land for, as they're doing their operations here, they're reclaiming a lot of land for sport fishing lakes. But this operation right here, it's all phosphate and potash. The train just went by, it had said potash on it. So, but it's really interesting though. I guess you don't get the magnitude of it with the camera here, but at a quick glance, it almost looks like snow. It doesn't even look like a white sand dune like somebody would maybe say, but it almost looks like snow. And speaking of potash, look, there's another view there. That thing's got to be about 100 feet high, at least. But anyway, speaking of potash, it just made me recall that my mom, when she was in her 20s, I guess mid-20s, and she moved from her home in Missouri. She moved out to Southern California, and for a time she worked for American Potash Company. And I forget what she was in charge of. She was a secretary, so she had some sort of dealings with all the workers that went out to the desert in California there, basically around Trona, California. And for those of you who are familiar with California, Trona is over at the edge of the Panamint Valley, and it's one way of getting to Death Valley. It's kind of a back way, but it's one way of getting into Death Valley from the west. So yeah, Mama, here's to you and potash. Hey, who knows? Maybe this Nutrien Corporation is a relic of the old American Potash Company, huh? Wow. Looks like snow, huh? All right, who wrote that song? The Swanee River. Did you say Stephen Foster? If you said Stephen Foster, you get the prize. So Stephen Foster wrote the song Swanee River. Even though the name of the river is Suwannee, S-U-W-A, he shortened it to 2 syllables because it fit better in the song. Way down upon Swanee River. And it's currently the state song of Florida, even though that hasn't always been the case. Anyway, the state song of Florida before used to be called Florida, My Florida. I think Michigan's song is Michigan, My Michigan, isn't it? Anyway, at some point in time, the state of Florida decided they liked the Swanee River song better as a state song. Now, the interesting thing too is that even though Stephen Foster was familiar with the Swanee River, he wouldn't have been familiar with this part of the Swanee River in Florida because he never visited here. And the Swanee River actually is the river that, in essence, delineates the panhandle between the rest of Florida. So that's your Stephen Foster trivia for the day. And also, speaking of Stephen Foster trivia, where did we first mention him in this journey across America? Gotta think back a few videos. I'll give you a hint. It's Kentucky. Where did we first mention him in Kentucky? If you said that we first mentioned him in Kentucky in Augusta, when we crossed over from Ohio across the Ohio River into Augusta, that's where we first mentioned it, because Stephen Foster actually had relatives there in Augusta, Kentucky. So I'm just a few miles, well, I guess I'm maybe 7 miles, 8 miles out of White Springs. Gotta be more than that. It's too early to be that close. And also, look at this too. You know, we're getting into more of the Spanish moss. I encountered some of it there in Jasper. Jasper, the friendly ghost. Oh, no, Casper. But I'm starting to see more and more of it too in the trees. It's been a pretty little section, US 41. It's not been as busy as I expected, so it's been relatively quiet. Just cars coming every now and then. All right, that's it. Look at that, X marks the spot, huh? All I have to do is get under that, find that exact spot underneath there, and I think I'll find the, what is it, the pot of gold maybe? Since we don't have a rainbow, we can just use X marks the spot there. Huh. Hey, do you remember back in Michigan what the preferred beer was along the side of the road? I wonder if that's going to be the preferred beer along the side of the road in Florida. Busch Light, are you going to start and end the trip here? White Springs, Florida. A little town. What do we know about it? Well, way back in the days before there were any Europeans around here, the Indian days, this area was a dividing line up at the Suwannee River, which is just the east side of town here. It was the dividing line between the Timucuan and the Appalachian Indians, the Timucuan to the east, Appalachia to the west. This is east over here. Now, a quick aside. Do you remember where you first heard about the Timucuan Indians? It was a few videos back. It was when we were in Apalaha. That's when we were there in Georgia. Oh boy, it's end of a long day. Anyway, so the Indians were here, and there were mineral springs here, and the Indians considered them considered the mineral springs sacred. And in fact, any of the Indians, no matter what side of the whose side they were on, they always knew they could come up here to the springs and not be attacked by the other side, because again it was a sacred area. Then Spaniards came, and then the Americans came, and in the early 1800s, I think in the 1830s, some guys came out and platted the town, and because of the springs, they turned it into a resort of sorts, touting the health benefits of the healing sulfur springs that were around here. In fact, it was at one time called White Sulphur Springs. Then another guy got involved. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte Broward, and if that name rings a bell, Broward, he became a future governor of Florida, and Broward County is evidently named after him. Then the Civil War came, and the tourism stopped, of course, but it was known as a place of refuge for the Confederates. And that's when Broward came, is after the Civil War. After the Civil War, it became a tourist area again. People coming by stagecoach and train to the springs. And then in the fast forward to the 1930s, it started becoming not used, presumably because of the depression and everything. So everything started declining. And then in the 50s, the Stephen Foster Museum was erected, and then eventually the park and all that. So it brought back some tourism, but the springs didn't really start to be reused as much anymore. In fact, the springs started declining in 1980 to the point where in 1990 they just stopped flowing altogether, and that prompted a movement to get a law in place to restore the aquifer that lies underneath here, which is what was supplying the springs. So this is the short history of historic White Springs, and look, we've got some more onlookers, just like we did in Alapaha. There we go, Alapaha, or Alapaha. So there you go, White Springs, Florida. So I'm going to stay here tonight. I actually found a little bed and breakfast for 25 bucks a night, and I think that might be it right there. So nighty night for my first full day in Florida, and blah 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 blah. Something doesn't want me to film here. So I'm in Lake City, Florida. How did I get here? Well, I was in White Springs there. I stayed overnight in White Springs after I got there at Judith's place at the White Springs B&B. Thank you very much, Judith. And actually, I was going to have you meet her, but I realized after I filmed the thing, I only pressed camera and not video, so sorry about that. Anyway, I stayed overnight in White Springs, and then the next day she was actually coming to down to Lake City here, 13 miles. So instead of taking the road walk, I just took a ride into town with her, and then spent a few days off here. As you remember, my last leg was 14 days. And now this leg here is going to be 14 days over towards the Orlando area, Lake Mary to be exact. Seems kind of long, but it's 180 miles. Yeah, I guess it is long. Anyway, 14-day leg, starting it with a cold day. It's 46 degrees, going down to 30 tonight. And this Lake City, man, it seems to be going on and on and on. We'll get out the driveway before I get run over. Let's see, this would be, I guess that would be east. This would be west. This is US 90 going through here. And then US 41 and 441 will be crossing up there. And then Interstate 75 is over that way, and then Interstate 10 is up that way. So Lake City is kind of I guess a little bit of a crossroads, but it's really spread out, even though it doesn't have that big of a population. So it's kind of interesting. Oh, the other thing too I learned about Lake City is that since Jacksonville is getting all crowded, it's about an hour and a half, I think, that way. They're starting to put logistics type of industry in here, so this is going to be kind of an overflow inland port, so to speak, for all the commerce, all the stuff that goes through Jacksonville. All right, so Lake City. Up this way a bit, I'm going to hit onto Florida 100 and just walk that for a few miles and camp out in the woods tonight. And then the next night will be Lake Butler, the town of Lake Butler. I'll camp either behind the City Hall or in the trees across the street in the park. This is noisy, enough of this. Okay. Oh, and I want to point out something that's different about, I guess it's Florida, not just the city. But you know, when you come up to a stoplight, you want to push the button across the road. You know, you think that, oh, now it's changed on me. Oh, no, it hasn't. So usually, you know, you press this button, it's for that street right there. And you press this button, it's for that street right there. But no, it's different. To change a button, to change a light on a street in Florida, you press the button that's perpendicular to the street you're wanting to walk across. The other day I was trying to walk across the street, and I pressed the button, the light changed, and the red pedestrian thing stayed, so I was a good boy and obeyed the traffic signs, and then the light changed red and didn't let me cross, so I pressed it again and it still stayed red, so then I broke the law. And then that's when I noticed, and then coming back, then that's when I noticed that, oh, look at that, it's backwards. Huh. I don't think I'll have, as I get past Lake City here, I don't think I'll have occasion to have to press a button anywhere for another 14 days. So let's see what happens. I just ate at a place in Lake City called Shirley's. And it's one of those local places. It's kind of a southern type of place, but it reminded me of something that told me when I got something that somebody told me when I got here in Florida. Is that, as you probably know, Florida over the years has kind of become a melting pot, kind of cosmopolitan type of place, especially with all the people that have moved to Florida from other places. However, there are certain places in Florida where still you can find a good number of natives, so to speak, and that's in this section of Florida, the northern Florida here. And so the interesting phrase that somebody told me is that Florida is the only place, Florida is backwards. It's the only place where you can, the farther north you go, the farther into the south you get. And so what prompted me to tell you that is that this restaurant that I was in, Shirley's, it just by watching the people and their interactions with each other and listening to them, they all appeared to be like the old-time Southern Floridians from this area. So I think I'll probably still have a bit more of that for a few days in this section of the in this leg of my trip, probably for at least another week, until I start getting closer and closer over towards the Orlando metro area, where it probably becomes starting to become a little bit more of a melting pot. Although I'll be in quite a few of the rural areas, so maybe I'll just still continue to interact with old Florida, you know what I'm talking about? A cold morning once again. It's in the 30s. But while I wanted to point this out, I'm getting more and more of this type of vegetation, which is a nice change of pace, you know. Still got the trees, but then a lot of the trees are starting to get this Spanish moss on them as well. All right, so 13 miles into Lake Butler today. And I think the walk is just pretty much like this here. Oh, another can. That's Mountain Dew. I'm always struck by these roadside memorials. This one's a little bit more, you probably can't tell, but this one's a little bit more, it's bigger. It's almost as tall as me. And the other thing that's different too is on this one here, not only do they have that, but they've ridden this onto the roadway. So I guess, oh, look at this right here. Huh. So drive safely, folks. And I guess don't contribute to the beer cans on the side of the road, right? I have to point something out real quick here. This is the first stretch of road. That was close. That I've seen since last year out west, where you can see way miles ahead what's down the road there. First time I've gotten this on this trip. That's looking north towards Lulu. And then this is up towards, down towards Lake Butler. But yeah, really interesting. Miles and miles and miles of road. Well, besides that little piece of road walk coming into White Springs, which was actually the Florida Trail, I'm now on the Florida Trail. That's looking at the trail going northbound here off of US 100 and Clark Saw Shop Road. So I'm continuing southbound into Lake Butler, but it's kind of interesting to finally be on a trail, quote unquote, again. It's going to be a road walk for 7.2 miles into Lake Butler, but then after that I'll be on the Lake Butler to Palatka rail trail, I think, or it might be a little bit of a road walk as well, and then that takes me into a place called Keystone Heights. I'll go past that and to a place called Lake something or other. And yeah, don't you like this, you know? Yeah, come along on the trip. I'm going to take you to places, but I don't know what the names are, so we're just going. I'll look it up later. Oh, and while we're at it, I wanted to mention a couple things. First off, thank you to all of you who have sent me money through PayPal or Venmo. As you might be aware, down below on the description of the video, I have a couple links to my PayPal and Venmo account. So if in the kindness of your heart you just decide you want to send me some money, that's how you can do it. The second thing is a number of people told me to set up a Patreon account where people can sign up and send me money monthly, but I don't want to do that, you know. I like to do these videos for you. And if you like them, then good. And if you like them enough to throw me a few bucks each way on PayPal or Venmo. That's nice too, and if not, well then that's all right. So anyway, thank you again for those of you who have sent me money those ways. And again, the links are in the description down below. And then the third thing is, what was the third thing? Oh, also in the description below, if you haven't noticed, there is a link to the route that I've been walking. And so if you wanted to look at that and just see what that looks like on the map, it's a Google Earth link, but it's pretty nice. And thanks to Michael over in Hawaii for putting that together. And that link is, I think, current to this video. It might be a day or two delayed. But anyway, so all right, there you have it. That's all. Now that's all I have to say for now. I mentioned Busch beer seeming to be the beer of choice along this road. Here's another one. It's not the only other one I've passed. There's been quite a few others. But also, Natural Light seems to be just about as popular as Busch Light. So let's continue to monitor the situation and see. Have you ever tasted those two beers, Busch Light and Natural Light? And if so, which one is your preference? Well, coming into Lake Butler, it's a nice trail. It's the old Norfolk Southern rail line that they've turned into a trail. It's called the Lake Butler to Pulaska Trail, and that's heading southeast towards Pulaska. I think there's a little a gap just outside of Lake Butler that way. So when I leave Lake Butler tomorrow, instead of taking this trail and then going up the highway and out and then back down, I'll just take the highway and then catch the trail after a ways there. But going northerly, poop, dead stop right there, so that's why I had to do the road walk. Doing that road walk, you could see through the trees from time to time the old rail bed. So I suppose that if they're going to ever make an extension of this trail up closer towards Lake City, I guess, if it goes that far, they can do so. Alright, so now I just got to find City Hall. It's going to be my designated camping spot. Resupply for 1.5 days and call it a night. A cold night once again tonight. Well, what do you think I should do? Stay or go?